Joseph's Forgiveness, a Journey of Trials and Faith. Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, I invite you to embark with me on one of the most touching narratives in the Bible, a story that spans generations and continues to inspire millions around the world, the story of Joseph. Imagine being betrayed by those who were supposed to protect you, sold into slavery, and cast into a foreign land, facing challenges that would test anyone's resolve. Yet, instead of giving into hatred or despair, Joseph chose to trust in God and believe that there was a greater purpose in every trial. This story is a powerful example of how forgiveness and faith can turn tragedies into triumphs. Throughout this video, you'll see how Joseph's determination and his ability to see beyond adversity led him to become one of the most important figures in Egypt, and how he, with a heart full of compassion, chose to forgive those who betrayed him. This life lesson goes far beyond a biblical story. It is a message of hope for all of us. So, if you want to keep learning from inspiring stories like this, take a moment to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to receive all our updates. Let's explore this emotional journey filled with life lessons. Joseph was Jacob's second-to-last son, born to his beloved wife Rachel. From a young age, he stood out among his brothers for his kindness, intelligence, and the special love his father had for him. Jacob treated him with evident affection, giving him gifts and protection that he did not offer to the others. The most notable of these gifts was a colorful tunic, symbolizing his unique affection. The tunic, made with vibrant and fine colors, was much more than a piece of clothing. It was a symbol of preference and, to Joseph's brothers, a constant reminder of their inferiority. Envy grew in their hearts. As a young man, Joseph began to have dreams that seemed to carry a greater meaning. In one dream, he saw bundles of grain in a field. His bundles stood upright while his brothers' bundles bowed down to it. When he told the dream to his family, his brothers were furious, interpreting it as arrogance. "Do you think you'll rule over us?" they asked scornfully. Another dream further increased their resentment. Joseph saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing before him. Even Jacob, who pondered his words, was puzzled and rebuked him. "Shall I, your mother, and your brothers bow before you?" Consumed by envy, Joseph's brothers began to entertain dark thoughts. One day, while tending the flocks far from home, Jacob sent Joseph to check on them. Seeing him approach, they conspired against him. "Here comes the dreamer," they said to each other. "Let's kill him and throw him into a cistern. We'll say a wild animal devoured him and see what becomes of his dreams." Reuben, the eldest, tried to intervene, suggesting they throw him into the cistern without harming him, intending to rescue him later. When Joseph arrived, his brothers attacked him, stripped him of his special tunic, and threw him into an empty cistern. While discussing what to do next, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelite merchants heading to Egypt. Judah suggested selling him as a slave, arguing it was better than killing him. The brothers agreed, and Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver. They stained his tunic with goat's blood and took it to Jacob. Seeing the blooded tunic, Jacob concluded a wild animal had killed his son. In grief, he tore his clothes and refused to be comforted. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. Despite adversity, Joseph stood out for his integrity and skill. God was with him, and everything he did prospered. Recognizing this, Potiphar put him in charge of his entire household. Under Joseph's management, Potiphar's household flourished. However, Potiphar's wife began to desire Joseph. She repeatedly tried to seduce him, but he always refused. "My master has entrusted me with everything except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" Despite his refusals, she falsely accused him of trying to assault her. Enraged, Potiphar imprisoned Joseph. Even in prison, Joseph maintained his faith in God. He soon gained the trust of the warden, who put him in charge of the other prisoners. During this time, 2 of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, were imprisoned. Both had mysterious dreams and sought Joseph's help to interpret them. With God's wisdom, Joseph revealed that the cupbearer would be restored to his position while the baker would be executed. His interpretations proved correct, but the cupbearer forgot about Joseph upon his release. 2 years later, Pharaoh had two disturbing dreams. In the first, 7 fat cows emerged from the Nile, followed by 7 gaunt cows that devoured the fat ones. In the second, 7 full ears of grain were consumed by 7 thin, scorched ones. None of Egypt's wise men could interpret the dreams. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph and mentioned his abilities to Pharaoh. Joseph was summoned before Pharaoh. He explained that the dreams predicted 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of severe famine. He also suggested appointing someone to manage resources during the years of plenty to prepare for the famine. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh appointed him governor of Egypt, granting him authority over all the land, second only to the throne. At 30 years old, Joseph began overseeing the plan to store grain during the years of abundance. When the famine struck, not only Egypt but neighboring lands felt its impact, and people came from afar to buy food. Among those affected by the famine were Jacob and his family in Canaan. When their supplies ran out, Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain. Upon arrival, Joseph's brothers were brought before him. Although they did not recognize him as the powerful governor of Egypt, Joseph recognized them immediately but chose not to reveal his identity. Instead, he accused them of being spies. The brothers denied this and explained they were sons of the same father, mentioning their elderly father and youngest brother, Benjamin, who had stayed behind. Joseph used this information to test them. He kept Simeon as a hostage and demanded they bring Benjamin to prove their honesty. The brothers returned home and told Jacob everything. Initially, Jacob refused to let Benjamin go, but as the famine persisted, he eventually relented. He sent Benjamin with gifts and extra money to appease the governor. When Joseph saw Benjamin, he was deeply moved. He hosted a banquet for his brothers, but continued testing them. He instructed his servants to place his silver cup in Benjamin's grain sack. After their departure, the servants pursued them, accusing them of theft. The cup was found with Benjamin, and the brothers were brought back. Joseph declared that Benjamin must remain as a slave, but the brothers, especially Judah, pleaded for mercy. Judah offered to take Benjamin's place, explaining that their father could not bear to lose his youngest son. This display of repentance and sacrifice deeply moved Joseph. Unable to contain his emotions, Joseph ordered everyone to leave the room except his brothers. Weeping, he revealed his identity. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be afraid, for it was God who sent me ahead of you to preserve life." The brothers were shocked and fearful, but Joseph reassured them, explaining that everything that had happened was part of God's plan. He embraced them and asked them to bring Jacob and the entire family to Egypt. When Jacob learned Joseph was alive, he could hardly believe it. He traveled to Egypt with his family, where he was joyfully reunited with Joseph. The family settled in the region of Goshen, where they prospered. Jacob spent his final years in peace, blessing his sons before his death and requesting to be buried in Canaan. After his death, the brothers feared Joseph would seek revenge, but he assured them of his forgiveness. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's story is a testament to the power of forgiveness, God's sovereignty, and the importance of trusting His plans, even when circumstances seem dire. We have reached the end of this incredible journey through Joseph's story, a powerful example of faith, perseverance, and the transformative impact of forgiveness. His life shows us that even in the most difficult situations, God may be working in ways we do not understand at the time, but that always serve a greater purpose. I hope this story has touched your heart and inspired you to face life's challenges with more faith and hope. If you enjoyed this content and want to continue exploring stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for our next posts. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.